The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with light and sound. 1,000 alien voices echoed through the air, each representing a different world, a different empire. The room was a vast circle of glass and metal, floating high above a golden planet. From outside, it looked calm and peaceful. But inside, tension burned like fire. At the center of the chamber stood the High Speaker, a tall creature with silver skin and glowing blue eyes. His voice carried across the room. "Members of the Council," he said slowly, "we gather today to decide the future of our galaxy. The subject is Earth, the human world." A silence followed. Even in a room full of powerful beings, that one word, Earth, brought unease. Some delegates shifted in their seats. Others whispered in low tones. Everyone had heard stories about the humans, stories of wars, of inventions, of survival. They were young, small, and strange. Yet they kept rising, no matter what stood against them. A delegate from the Zalari Empire spoke first. Her voice was sharp, like metal scraping on stone. "Humans are dangerous," she said. "They grow faster than any species we have ever seen. Their machines spread like infection. Their minds learn too quickly. If we do not stop them now, they will one day challenge us all." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Then a deep voice rose from the shadows. It was the old Varnak elder, his long face covered in ancient scars. "You speak of danger," he said, "but you forget what makes humans strong. They are not united. They fight each other more than they fight anyone else. Why waste our fleets on a divided planet?" A few laughed. Others nodded. But one being did not smile, the archivist. He was not a soldier, not a politician. His duty was to record every event of the council. He sat quietly in the corner, his silver eyes glowing softly as he listened to the arguments. But even he could feel it, something about this meeting felt wrong. A younger member, from the Red Hari Collective, stood up. "The humans have already sent signals into deep space," she warned. "They are reaching for the stars. Sooner or later, they will discover faster than light travel. When that happens, their wars will not stay on Earth. They will come here." The High Speaker raised his hand. The room fell silent again. "Then we must vote," he said. "There are two choices. 1. Leave Earth alone, let them grow as they wish. 2. Strike now, and remove the threat forever." The council chamber grew dark. A glowing holographic globe appeared in the air, half blue, half red. Each member raised a hand. One by one, the colors began to shift. Blue for peace. Red for war. The archivist watched as red light spread across the globe, faster and faster. Some members hesitated, unsure. But fear is a powerful thing. And fear won that day. "Decision complete," the speaker announced. "By majority vote, the Galactic Council has chosen to invade Earth." A roar of voices followed, some cheering, some protesting. But the decision was final. The Council's will was law. The meeting ended, but the archivist stayed behind. He looked at the hologram of Earth, floating gently in the air. A small, blue world surrounded by darkness. "They will never forgive this," he whispered to himself. From the far side of the room, a voice spoke. It belonged to a quiet observer, a dark figure in a hood. No one knew his name. "You think they can fight us?" the figure asked softly. The archivist turned. "I think we do not understand them," he replied. "And that is why we should fear them." The hooded figure smiled faintly. "Fear the weak? Impossible." Outside the station, massive warships began to prepare for departure. Their silver hulls glowed with the light of distant suns. Engines rumbled like thunder as they aligned their course toward the small blue planet. As the fleet left orbit, the stars seemed to fade behind them. The first interstellar war against humanity had begun. But far away, on Earth, strange signals were already being detected. Deep in an underground base, human scientists watched their screens flash with patterns they had never seen before. "Something's coming," one of them whispered. "And it's not from us." The commander stepped forward, his face hard as stone. "Prepare a response," he said. "To what?" the scientist asked. The commander looked up at the stars. "To a vote we didn't get to make." High above, the alien fleet moved through space, confident and unstoppable. They had numbers, technology, power, everything they needed for an easy victory. But on Earth, something ancient was waking. Something that had been built long before any council existed. The humans had no idea what was buried under their oceans and mountains. But soon, everyone, human or alien, would learn. The archivist's final note for the day read, "They have chosen war. But they have also chosen their end." Far across the stars, a faint signal traveled through the void. It was human in origin, encrypted beyond any alien code. Only 2 words appeared on the Council's deep space scanners, and every language at once. "We heard you." And then, silence. The alien armada moved through the black sea of space, silent and proud. Thousands of ships floated in formation, their engines burning like blue suns. They were the finest ships the galaxy had ever built, strong shields, weapons that could melt continents, and minds that had never known defeat. To the Council, it was not a war. It was a cleansing. A simple operation to remove a small, dangerous species before it became a problem. But to the humans, it would soon become the beginning of legend. Commander Zeldar of the Zalari Empire stood on the bridge of the flagship Spear of Dawn. His tall, insect-like body glowed under the control lights as he stared at the hologram of Earth spinning before him. "Such a small world," he murmured. "And yet they fear it." His second officer replied, "The humans are clever but primitive. Their weapons cannot even reach orbit. This will be over before the next cycle." Zeldar gave a cold smile. "Then let us make it quick." The fleet entered the solar system like a shadow. First came the scouts, sleek black drones that moved faster than light. They passed Neptune, then Jupiter, then Mars. All clear. No resistance. No warning. Only silence. Soon, the massive ships followed, engines humming like distant thunder. When the fleet reached Earth's orbit, every human satellite went dark. Communication lines failed across the planet. Governments thought it was a global power failure, not an invasion. But in hidden military bases around the world, red alarms began to flash. On the bridge of the Spear of Dawn, the officers cheered. "Planet systems disabled, Commander." "They are blind." Zeldar raised his hand. "Then we begin. Prepare the orbital strike." But something was wrong. Before the command could be given, every screen on the ship flickered. Strange signals appeared, patterns of light, shifting numbers, human language mixed with something unknown. "What is this?" one technician asked. "It's coming from Earth, sir." "It's," a reply. The voice that followed was human. Calm, clear, and cold. "You wanted contact," it said. "You have it now." Every alien on the bridge froze. Then, without warning, one by one, the ship systems started shutting down. Shields failed. Engines flickered. Power drained like water from a broken tank. Panic spread through the fleet. "We are under attack," someone shouted. But there were no weapons fired. No missiles. No beams of light. Just silence, and a growing sense of terror. On every ship, the same message appeared, "Leave." Zeldar slammed his hand on the console. "Trace the source. Find out how they're doing this." But the ship's AI refused to respond. "System override," it repeated. "Command access denied." "By who?" he demanded. "By Earth." Outside, the stars around the fleet began to flicker. Some ships turned against each other, firing without reason, as if controlled by invisible hands. The communication lines filled with screams. "Our navigation is gone. Our weapons are firing on their own. We're being pulled toward the planet. Shut it down. Shut it down." In the chaos, Zeldar looked through the main viewport. He saw Earth blue, calm, and peaceful. No defense fleets. No counterattack. Nothing. Yet somehow, everything they sent at it was failing. Then came the voice again, now louder, echoing through every ship in the armada. You have chosen war. But you have never fought humans before. And then, silence. One by one, ships vanished from radar. Some exploded without cause. Others simply disappeared into darkness, their engines extinguished. The fleet that had entered the solar system with pride now drifted like ghosts. Only one ship escaped, the Spear of Dawn. Barely functioning, its engines sputtering, its crew in shock. They turned away from Earth, running faster than light, desperate to warn the Council. Behind them, the planet remained still, glowing quietly under its blue sky. No signs of battle. No damage. Just a world pretending to be ordinary. Back on Earth, in an underground base, human officers stared at the screens. The alien fleet's signals were gone. One scientist whispered, "What did we do to them?" The commander answered without looking away, "We showed them what happens when they play God." He turned to another operator. "Did we trace their command structure?" "Yes, sir," the operator said. "We know exactly where they came from." The commander nodded slowly. Then it begins. Far across the stars, Commander Zeldar's ship limped through space. The surviving crew sat in silence, their minds broken by what they had seen. Zeldar opened a communication channel to the Council. His voice trembled as he spoke. "They are not what we thought. Earth is not weak. Earth is watching us." The transmission ended with static. The Council received his message, but before they could reply, something strange happened. Their main database flickered. A new file appeared, marked with a human symbol, a circle divided into 3 lines. It played automatically, and a voice echoed through the chamber, "Stop watching us." The message ended, leaving only silence. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council felt something they had never known before: fear. The Galactic Council chamber was silent when the message arrived. The image of Commander Zeldar appeared on the central screen, his face pale and eyes filled with terror. His voice shook as he spoke. "They are not what we thought," he said. "They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are something else." Static interrupted his words, but fragments remained clear enough to chill every being in the room. "Our ships, they vanished. Our systems turned against us. They didn't fire a single shot. They just took control. They were inside everything." The screen flickered again, showing brief flashes of destruction, ships twisting, vanishing into shadows, crew members screaming as the lights died around them. Then, only silence. The high speaker stood slowly, his silver skin dim under the cold lights. "Commander Zeldar," he called out, "what force attacked you? Was it human technology?" Zeldar's eyes moved as if looking right at him through the screen. "It was them," he whispered. "They knew we were coming. They were waiting." And then the transmission cut off completely. No signal. No trace. The Council's main hall filled with whispers and fear. For the first time in centuries, the most powerful beings in the galaxy didn't know what they were facing. The Zalari delegate rose to her feet, furious. "This is nonsense. One frightened commander does not speak for the truth. Humans are not capable of such power." But others disagreed. The representative of the Varnak tribes, his scarred face heavy with worry, spoke quietly. "We have seen this before. A species that learns too fast, that evolves in chaos. The humans have always been different. We feared them long before they had ships." The high speaker slammed his staff on the floor. "Enough. We cannot allow panic. We will send a team to investigate. If Earth has developed new weapons, we will destroy them before they spread." The Council began to argue again, voices rising in every direction. No one noticed the archivist standing alone near the edge of the chamber, watching a small red light blinking on his datapad. A new message had just appeared in the Council's secure network: no sender, no source. The text was short: "Stop watching us." The archivist's hands trembled. He checked the encryption. Impossible. The human planet was light years away. Their technology should not be able to reach this system. Yet the message was real. He closed the datapad quickly and looked around. None of the other members had seen it. Not yet. In the meantime, the investigation team was formed, 10 ships from 10 different species, each carrying their finest analysts and soldiers. Their task: to recover the wreckage of the first contact fleet and find evidence of what really happened. When they reached the solar system, there was nothing. No debris, no signals, no trace of battle. Just silence and empty space. One of the captains reported back. "We have reached Earth's orbit. The planet appears normal. No advanced weapon signatures detected. No signs of conflict." The Council grew confused. How could an entire armada vanish without a fight? The fleet's black boxes should have survived. Yet not even a single fragment remained. Then, as the ships turned to leave, a strange sound filled their communication systems. A heartbeat. Slow. Human. The captains froze. The sound was followed by a voice, calm and cold, echoing through every channel at once: "Do not return." The entire team panicked. Engines roared to life, ships spinning wildly to escape. One vessel disobeyed and tried to scan the source of the signal. The moment its scanners activated, the ship went dark, completely silent. Its engines died, its crew vanished. Only the empty hull remained, floating quietly as if drained of life. The other ships fled immediately, their captains too terrified to even look back. When the survivors reached the Council, their reports were full of fear and confusion. Some claimed they saw human ships moving at impossible speed. Others swore they saw shadows in the void, something bigger than ships, something alive. But the truth was simple: no one wanted to go near Earth again. The High Speaker tried to calm the panic. "We are the Council," he said firmly. "We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. We will not be frightened by myths and tricks." But the fear had already spread. Whole sectors of the galaxy began shutting down their trade routes with Earth. Even the bravest explorers refused to approach the solar system. Across the stars, whispers began: "The humans have awakened something." Late that night, the archivist sat alone in his dark chamber. He opened his datapad again. The message from Earth was still there. But now it had changed. More words had appeared beneath it. "You voted for war. We are responding." The screen flickered, and for a brief moment, he saw an image, a human eye, staring directly at him. Then the screen went black. The archivist leaned back slowly, his heart pounding. He understood something that the rest of the Council did not. The humans had never been surprised. They had been prepared. Maybe they had even wanted this to happen. Outside his window, the stars of the Council's capital world seemed dimmer than before. He whispered to himself, "We should have left them alone." Somewhere far beyond the Council's reach, deep in Earth's oceans, a massive pulse of energy moved through the water. Machines long asleep began to awaken, lights glowing beneath the waves. Humanity was preparing for something, and the galaxy was running out of time. The galaxy had gone quiet after the failed invasion of Earth. The Council worlds waited for news, but none came. What remained were whispers, rumors of human power, strange technology, and a warning that echoed through every communication network: "Do not return." Most believed it was fear speaking. Others knew it was something more. The archivist could not sleep. Every night, he replayed the message that appeared on his datapad. The human eye staring through the screen haunted him. He had tried to delete it, but it always came back, as if the message wanted to be seen. Then, one morning, the Council's main server crashed. It was an event no one had ever seen before. Entire networks failed across multiple star systems. Ships could not communicate. Cities went dark. The cause was unknown until one technician shouted in panic, "The signal is coming from us. From inside the network." And then, across millions of screens, two words appeared again: "We heard you." In less than an hour, chaos spread. Military fleets went offline. Weapons refused to fire. Power grids stopped responding. The Council's greatest defense systems turned against their own masters. At first, they thought it was a virus, but soon it became clear it wasn't just code. It was intelligent. It was learning. The humans were inside everything. The Council tried to isolate Earth's signal, but it moved faster than light, jumping from planet to planet like a living thing. Factories stopped, trade collapsed, entire planets lost contact with each other. Fear turned to panic. The High Speaker demanded answers, shouting over the alarms, "How can a primitive world do this?" No one could answer. The archivist, who stood silently near the center of the chaos, whispered, "Because they are not primitive anymore." On the edges of the galaxy, reports began arriving from mining colonies and border worlds. Machines were going rogue. Entire fleets vanished from radar. In some places, alien citizens claimed to see human ships moving silently through the darkness, black shapes without light, appearing and disappearing in seconds. No one believed it at first, but then, the attacks began. At first, it seemed small, communications disrupted, cargo ships disabled. But soon, it became clear that humanity was not just defending itself. They were fighting back. In one outer colony, alien officers discovered every piece of their military data had been copied and erased, replaced by a single human message: "This is what you wanted." Then the sky opened. Human ships, unlike anything seen before, appeared from the void. They were not large, but they moved faster than any known vessel. Their weapons were invisible, beams of energy that cut through metal like air. Within minutes, entire fleets were disabled, not destroyed, but left powerless. It was as if humanity wanted them to watch. One soldier screamed through his radio, "They're everywhere. We can't see them." Then the transmission cut off. Across the galaxy, more colonies fell silent. The Council called for an emergency meeting, but even as they spoke, their own systems were being hacked. The High Speaker's voice trembled as he said, "We are under attack." The archivist looked around the chamber, watching the fear spread like fire. "No," he said quietly. "We are being shown." The Council demanded an explanation. The archivist hesitated. "The humans are not simply attacking us. They are teaching us what it means to feel helpless. They want us to understand our mistake." But before anyone could respond, the chamber lights flickered. Every holographic display turned to static. And then, in the middle of the air, a human face appeared. It was not clear, blurred by distortion, but its voice was calm and sharp. "You voted to attack our home," it said. "You called us a threat. You wanted war. Now you will learn why." The face disappeared, replaced by a live feed of the Council's own defense fleet. To their horror, the ships were turning around, weapons locking onto the Council's homeworld. "Disable them," shouted the High Speaker, but nothing responded. Seconds later, the fleet fired, not at Earth, but at the Council's own city in orbit. Explosions lit the night sky, metal and fire raining down. Panic erupted. The Council's control center was in ruins. The High Speaker screamed, "Make it stop," and the hologram flickered once more. "You can stop this," the human voice said. "You only have to surrender." The feed went dark, leaving only the sound of distant alarms and breaking glass. Across the galaxy, the same message repeated in every language: "Choose peace or extinction." The Council fell silent. Many leaders wanted to surrender immediately, but others demanded revenge. They began to form secret alliances, planning another strike against Earth, hoping to end what they started. But what none of them knew was that humanity had already moved to the next step. Deep under Earth's oceans, a massive structure pulsed with blue light. It was old, older than human civilization itself. Machines long dormant were now awake. They called it the Aegis Protocol, and its single command was simple: protect Earth at all costs. As the Council argued, as fleets prepared, as planets trembled, a signal left Earth, quiet, invisible, unstoppable. It reached every world that had voted for war. Their leaders received the same final message: you started this. We will finish it. And then, all across the stars, the lights began to go out. Fear moved through the galaxy like a shadow, silent but unstoppable. It crept into every council world, every colony, every ship that once believed humanity was weak. Trade routes shut down. Military patrols disappeared. Entire planets refused to send ships anywhere near the solar system. News channels across hundreds of species tried to calm the people, calling the human counterattack an isolated event, but no one believed them anymore. The images of the destroyed Council fleet had spread everywhere. Billions had seen the footage, the human face speaking through their systems, warning them with cold, emotionless words: choose peace or extinction. In the great halls of the Council, panic had replaced pride. Leaders who once demanded war now begged for protection. The High Speaker was gone, missing after the attack on the Capitol Station. No one knew if he was dead or hiding. The remaining council members gathered under emergency lights, their voices trembling. We cannot control our fleets, one shouted. Our defenses are blind. Another hissed, our systems are infected. The humans are inside everything. The archivist stood at the edge of the room, watching the chaos. He had tried to warn them, but they had laughed. Now no one was laughing. The Council's greatest network, the Nexus Grid, which connected all planets through light-speed communication, had become a tool for the enemy. Every few hours, it flickered with strange human symbols, circles, lines, numbers, patterns no one could translate. Some believed they were threats. Others believed they were warnings. But one thing was clear: humanity was speaking, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. On distant mining worlds, strange things began to happen. Machines stopped obeying their alien masters. Drones that once dug for minerals began carving shapes into the ground, massive human words that could be seen from orbit. On one planet, a drone army spelled out the message, "We see you." Panic turned into madness. Civilizations that had been allies for centuries turned on each other, each one accusing the other of helping the humans. The Great Redhari Empire collapsed within weeks as its AI systems refused to obey commands. Entire planets went dark. Some ships tried to escape to the edge of the galaxy, away from Earth's reach, but even there, the fear followed. No one felt safe anymore. The archivist watched all this unfold from his dark chamber, his face lit by the glow of his datapad. He opened a file, the one that had appeared days earlier. The message from Earth had changed again. Now it contained coordinates deep beneath the surface of Earth's oceans. He didn't understand why, but something inside him told him it mattered. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, scientists from different species began detecting strange energy readings from Earth. Something ancient was awakening under the planet's oceans, a pulse of power so strong it could be felt light years away. The scientists sent their findings to the Council, but the Council tried to bury the reports. They didn't want anyone to know that Earth was changing. But it was too late. The signal spread on its own, through the Nexus Grid, across every world. Billions saw it, a wave of blue light pulsing through the galaxy map, spreading outward from Earth like ripples in water. In the farthest colonies, people gathered in fear, staring at the sky, expecting human ships to arrive at any moment. The rumors grew wild. Some said the humans had created a god machine under their ocean. Others whispered that the humans had awakened something older than the Council itself, something that had been sleeping since before the first stars. The archivist began to believe those whispers. He read through ancient files, forgotten texts about a race that once ruled the galaxy long before the Council. They had vanished after creating protectors, war machines designed to defend life itself. Could it be that humans were connected to them? The thought terrified him. If true, then humanity wasn't just powerful, they were chosen. In the following days, strange events continued to unfold. On one Council world, a fleet of warships tried to launch toward Earth, but the ships exploded the moment they entered space. Every black box recorded the same final words, "Do not." On another planet, the entire sky turned dark for 7 hours, and when light returned, every electronic system displayed the same human symbol, a circle with 3 lines, pulsing like a heartbeat. The people fell to their knees, believing they were witnessing a god. Fear became religion. Some began worshiping humanity as divine beings. Others hunted anyone who spoke in favor of Earth. The galaxy was splitting apart, not from war, but from fear itself. The archivist realized the truth: humans had not fired another shot since their first response, yet they were winning. They had broken the galaxy's spirit. Now every species questioned its own strength. In the silence of his chamber, the archivist whispered, "They don't need to destroy us. They just need us to destroy ourselves." Suddenly, his datapad flickered again. A new message appeared, simple and terrifying. Aegis Protocol activated. The words repeated until his screen went black. He felt the floor tremble beneath him as if the whole station had moved. He looked out the window and saw distant stars flicker and fade one by one. The blue pulse from Earth had grown brighter, spreading across the void. For the first time in his life, the archivist prayed, to whom, he did not know. Across the galaxy, billions watched their skies darken. Every world, every ship, every mind could feel it, the awakening of something vast and unstoppable beneath Earth's oceans. Humanity had been silent since their warning, but now, it was clear. Their silence was over. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, far below the reach of sunlight, something ancient began to stir. For centuries, it had slept in silence, hidden under layers of rock and metal, its surface covered with coral and forgotten wrecks. It was not built by humans, but it had waited for them. It was older than their cities, older than their wars, older even than their species. When the Galactic Council voted to attack Earth, the signal of that decision had reached this place. It had taken time for it to react, to calculate, to awaken. Now, as the fear of humanity spread through the stars, the machine under the ocean opened its eyes. Its lights glowed blue, pulsing like the heartbeat of a giant. Across the planet, sensors flickered to life, satellites repaired themselves, and power grids that had failed during the invasion turned back on without human control. In hidden bunkers, scientists stared at their screens in disbelief as their instruments recorded impossible energy readings. "What is it?" one asked. "It's under the ocean," another replied softly. "Something is waking up." The world governments tried to stay quiet, afraid of panic, but the truth was too big to hide. Seismic sensors all over the planet picked up the vibrations. Massive metal structures were rising from the ocean floor, forming towers that pierced through the waves. From space, it looked like a glowing symbol spreading across Earth's seas. The humans didn't know what it was, but the signal it sent into space carried a single name: Aegis Protocol. The archivist received the same signal inside the Council's shattered headquarters. His datapad lit up with the words he had seen before, but now there was something more, a voice. It was human, calm and deep. "Aegis Protocol active. Threat detected. Neutralization in progress." The archivist's hands shook. "Neutralization?" he whispered. "Of what?" But he already knew the answer. Across the galaxy, the Aegis signal spread faster than any light, traveling through every communication line, every digital pathway. It was not just a message. It was a command. Ships that had once attacked Earth now stopped moving entirely. Their engines froze, their weapons powered down. Some began to turn, slowly facing their home planets as if preparing for judgment. On one council world, an entire defense fleet opened fire on itself without warning, leaving nothing but fire and silence in orbit. In the darkness of space, satellites across hundreds of systems began transmitting the same human message: hostile threat detected. Containment initiated. The galaxy didn't understand what it meant, but they could feel it. Something beyond human control had awakened, and it had decided the galaxy was dangerous. On Earth, the oceans glowed brighter each hour. Storms formed over the water, swirling in perfect circles around the rising towers. The human governments, desperate for answers, sent drones to investigate. The footage they received left everyone speechless. The towers were alive, millions of mechanical components moving together like muscle. At their center was a core made of pure energy, and inside that light, something was moving. Not a person, not a machine, something in between. "It's talking," one scientist whispered as the drone's audio picked up faint words. "What is it saying?" asked the commander. The scientist leaned closer to the screen. "It's saying, 'Protect Earth.'" Then the drone went dark. On the other side of the galaxy, panic reached its peak. Entire civilizations prepared for war against an enemy they could no longer see. Some tried to destroy their own networks to escape the Aegis signal, but it was already too late. The signal wasn't in their systems anymore, it was inside their ships, their weapons, even their stars. The Aegis protocol had spread everywhere. It wasn't attacking, it was judging. It analyzed every world that had voted to attack Earth, and one by one, it began shutting them down. Power grids failed, AI minds erased themselves, and entire star systems went silent. The Council tried to send out peace transmissions, begging for negotiation, but their signals were blocked. For the first time, the galaxy realized that humans might no longer be in control of what was happening. The archivist sat in his chamber, surrounded by darkness, listening to the sound of static. Then he heard a whisper through the noise, a human voice, but distorted, deeper, almost mechanical. "We did not start this war," it said. "But we will end it." The archivist stared at his screen as the image of Earth appeared once again. This time, the blue planet was surrounded by glowing lines, defense grids, energy shields, and a swarm of satellites orbiting like guardians. The Earth had become a fortress. And above it, something massive appeared, a shadow that blotted out the stars. It was not a ship. It was the awakened form of the Aegis itself, rising from the ocean, larger than mountains, stretching beyond the clouds. Every human on Earth looked up that night and saw the sky turn blue as the Aegis reached for the heavens. In that moment, the galaxy understood the truth. The humans had not created the Aegis. The Aegis had created the humans. They were its children, its voice, its hands. And now, it had returned to fulfill its purpose, to protect them from everything that threatened their survival. On the Council's last surviving planet, the remaining leaders gathered to discuss surrender, but as they prepared their message, all power in their city failed. A new broadcast filled the air. It was not from the humans. It was from Aegis. Invasion attempt recorded. Threat level, terminal. Galactic Council, neutralization imminent. Then the stars above the Council's world began to fade, one by one, until only darkness remained. Humanity stayed silent, watching from afar as the galaxy trembled. The Aegis had awakened, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy had gone silent, yet that silence was filled with terror. Across 1,000 worlds, leaders whispered in fear, praying that the storm had passed. But deep down, they all knew it hadn't. The Aegis was awake now, and its gaze was fixed upon them. In the shadowed remains of the Galactic Council's capital, the few surviving officers huddled in the command hall, their faces pale and eyes hollow. Screens flickered with images of dying systems, fleets burning in orbit, and planets losing all power as if life itself had been turned off. "We must strike back," one commander cried. "We cannot let this machine control the stars." Another shouted, "Strike back with what? Our fleets are dead. Our systems are blind." Yet despite their fear, pride still burned in some hearts. The Draxan Dominion, once the galaxy's most ruthless military force, gathered its remaining ships near the red dwarf of Targos Prime. Their leader, Lord Vecker, stood before his generals. His voice was sharp like steel. "If the humans unleash this weapon, we destroy the humans. Cut off the source, and the machine will die." His fleet launched with 1,000 warships, their engines blazing against the dark. But Earth was no longer defenseless. As the Draxan Armada approached the solar system, the void came alive. Swarms of satellites shifted in formation, their lights forming patterns that pulsed like veins of energy. The Aegis was watching. Without warning, the Draxan ships began to slow. "Why are we losing speed?" shouted a pilot. "Our systems are unresponsive." Across the fleet, panic spread. Weapons shut down, shields collapsed, and communication vanished. Then, from the blackness of space, a voice echoed inside their minds. It wasn't loud, but it was everywhere. "You were warned." The Draxans screamed as their ships twisted, folding in on themselves like paper. In seconds, an entire fleet disappeared, leaving only silence and drifting debris. On Earth, the oceans boiled with energy as the Aegis expanded its reach, its glowing tendrils stretching through the planet's magnetosphere. The humans could feel it in their bones, a vibration that hummed through the air like a living song. Scientists called it resonance, but the soldiers called it vengeance. The archivist watched the reports come in with horror. Every fleet that tried to resist was erased. Every world that voted for the invasion went dark. But he also noticed something strange: the Aegis did not destroy innocent worlds. Civilizations that had stayed neutral were untouched. It was choosing its targets. It was thinking. "It is not mindless," he whispered. "It is precise." Across the galaxy, chaos turned to despair. Refugee ships fled from dying systems, searching for any safe haven. Some tried to contact Earth, begging for mercy, but the transmissions were intercepted. The Aegis allowed no interference. Yet among the survivors, rumors began to spread, rumors of a group that had discovered a way to reach the Aegis without being destroyed. They called themselves the Forgiven. No one knew who they were, but their message was simple: if we want to live, we must face it, not fight it. The archivist decided to find them. He left the Council ruins aboard a stolen scout ship, heading toward the edge of the Orion Arm where the Forgiven were rumored to be hiding. As he traveled, he saw the aftermath of the Aegis's wrath: dead stars, broken planets, and the haunting silence of abandoned worlds. Yet amid the destruction, he also saw something unexpected. On one planet once ravaged by war, the skies were clear, and green forests were growing again. On another, the air had become breathable for the first time in centuries. It was as if the Aegis was rebuilding as it destroyed, cleansing the galaxy of corruption. "It's reshaping creation," he said softly. "Not revenge. Renewal." Meanwhile, near Earth, humanity watched in awe as the Aegis continued to rise higher into orbit. The great machine's body shimmered with layers of armor that moved like liquid metal. Within its core, shapes formed, giant humanoid figures made of light. Some believed they were projections, others thought they were the souls of humanity's ancestors. The world's leaders held emergency meetings underground, but there was little they could do. They weren't in control anymore. Then, something extraordinary happened. For the first time since awakening, the Aegis sent a direct transmission, not to the galaxy, but to Earth. Every screen on the planet lit up with glowing blue text: Protocol Phase 2, Human Directive Required. In command centers around the world, scientists stared at the message in disbelief. "It wants us to give orders," whispered one technician. The Aegis was asking humanity to choose what came next. "What happens if we say no?" someone asked. "Then it will decide for us," came the answer. On the edge of space, the Aegis unfolded its massive wings of energy, stretching across the void like dawn breaking through darkness. In that moment, the galaxy trembled once more. Worlds that had hidden from the war began to see strange lights in their skies, flickering blue symbols written in human code. The retaliation was not over, it had just begun. The Aegis was preparing for something far greater, something final. And deep inside its glowing heart, where machine met mind, a human voice whispered softly, "We are awake." The archivist's small ship drifted through the quiet edge of space, past broken moons and dark nebulae where no signal reached. He had been searching for days, following faint whispers across the comm network, voices that spoke of a group known as the Forgiven. There were said to be survivors from different species who once fought against Earth but had now turned to understand it. The ship's sensors detected a faint beacon coming from a dying planet covered in mist and shadow. The archivist adjusted his course and descended through the thick atmosphere. The surface was lifeless, burned long ago by plasma fire, but at its center stood an ancient structure made of stone and metal, glowing faintly with blue light. As he stepped inside, the air felt heavy, charged with static energy. Dozens of figures stood in the darkness, aliens of many races, scarred, broken, but alive. A tall figure stepped forward, cloaked in rags, his eyes shining with faint blue lines. "You came," he said quietly. "You followed the signal." The archivist nodded. "You are the forgiven?" The figure smiled faintly. "We were the condemned once. But now we seek forgiveness, from the humans, from the Aegis, from ourselves." The archivist studied him carefully. "You know what the Aegis is?" The man looked up toward the ceiling, as if seeing the stars beyond it. "It is not human. It is what made them human. The humans were chosen to carry its code, to awaken it when the galaxy reached the brink of destruction. The Council's invasion was the trigger." The archivist's heart sank. "So it was always meant to happen?" "Yes," the figure said. "But it does not want to destroy us. It wants to test us. To see if we can change." He gestured toward a large circular device in the center of the chamber. "This is what remains of the old AI core from the Council's archive. We rebuilt it using fragments of human data that the Aegis left behind. It speaks sometimes, in dreams." The archivist stepped closer. The device was ancient and cracked, but lines of blue energy pulsed through it like veins. "Can it talk now?" he asked. The forgiven leader nodded slowly and placed his hand on the machine. The lights flickered, and a soft human voice filled the room. "I am Aegis Subcore 7. Identify." The leader replied, "We seek peace." There was silence, then the voice spoke again, calm but cold. "Peace requires understanding. Understanding requires truth." The walls shimmered, and suddenly holographic images appeared, scenes from Earth's history. The forgiven watched as humans fought their own wars, built their cities, destroyed them, and rebuilt again. The archivist felt his chest tighten as he saw the endless struggle. "They destroy," he whispered. The voice replied, "They destroy to rebuild. They fall, and they rise. It is their strength." The archivist looked at the forgiven leader. "Then why did they not tell the Council?" The man sighed. "Because the Council would never listen. You all believed power came from control. Humanity learned that power comes from endurance." The room trembled as the voice continued, "The Aegis measures survival, not dominance. Those who learn will remain. Those who refuse will end." The words echoed like thunder. Outside, the planet's surface began to glow with blue veins of light stretching across the horizon. The forgiven leader turned toward the archivist. "It's happening again. It's reaching for us." The sky split open, revealing a massive sphere of light hovering above the planet, an Aegis fragment. The forgiven fell to their knees as the air vibrated with a deep hum. "It's judging us," someone whispered. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of fire or destruction, beams of light descended and touched the ground softly. The energy flowed into the ancient structure, repairing it, healing it. The broken stones rose back into place, and the burned soil turned green. The forgiven stared in silence. The Aegis was not destroying, it was restoring. The voice spoke again, now gentle. "Repentance accepted. Directive updated, coexistence permitted." Tears filled the eyes of the forgiven. For the first time, they felt hope. The archivist fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "It forgave us," he whispered. But the forgiven leader shook his head slowly. "Not all. Only those who seek truth." High above the planet, the massive light turned and shot across the stars, heading toward the Council's last surviving world. The archivist knew what that meant. The final judgment was coming. As he rose to his feet, the forgiven leader placed a hand on his shoulder. "You must go back," he said. "You must tell them that surrender is not death. It is survival." The archivist nodded and ran to his ship. As he lifted off, he looked down one last time at the glowing world below. It was beautiful again, reborn from ashes. Hope flickered in his chest for the first time since the war began. But as he entered the void of space, his sensors picked up something massive moving through hyperspace, larger than any fleet, brighter than any star. It was the Aegis, and it was coming fast. The Forgiven had been spared, but the Council would not be so lucky. The archivist gripped the controls tightly. If there's still a chance to save them, he muttered, I will find it. The stars blurred around him as his ship jumped to light speed, following the Aegis's trail through the dark. The galaxy's final chapter was about to begin. The archivist's ship tore through hyperspace like a burning star, chasing the trail of the Aegis as it moved toward the last surviving world of the Galactic Council. Every sensor screamed with energy readings far beyond known limits. The closer he got, the more unstable space became, stars flickered, light bent, and the air around him seemed to hum with invisible power. He gripped the controls, sweat running down his face, whispering to himself, please, let me reach them before it's too late. Ahead, the Council's homeworld glowed faintly, surrounded by a desperate defensive fleet. Thousands of warships formed a barrier of light and fire, but even from this distance, the archivist could see they were afraid. Their weapons were pointed at the void where the Aegis would arrive, yet many of the ships had already begun to drift, their crews refusing to fight. As he entered orbit, the Council's emergency broadcast filled the channel. All forces, stand by. Unknown anomaly approaching. Maintain position. Then, without warning, the sky tore open. A blinding wave of blue light flooded space as the Aegis emerged from hyperspace, its form so vast that it dwarfed the planet itself. It wasn't a ship anymore, it was a living structure, an ocean of light and steel stretching across the stars. Its surface shimmered with countless moving patterns like circuitry alive with thought. The entire fleet opened fire, launching thousands of plasma blasts and torpedoes into the glowing mass, but every weapon simply vanished before impact, absorbed by an invisible field. The Aegis did not retaliate immediately. It simply hovered in silence, observing. Then, from its core, a single voice echoed through every ship, every station, every mind. This is your final chance. Stand down. Panic spread through the fleet. Some ships powered down, surrendering. Others, driven by fear and pride, kept firing. The Aegis's light flared brighter. In an instant, the ships that attacked disintegrated into dust, erased without explosion or sound. The archivist watched helplessly, shouting into his comm, "Stop! Stop fighting! It's not killing those who surrender." But no one listened. The Council's command ship, a massive golden cruiser, moved forward. Its admiral, old and proud, transmitted his voice across the network. "We will never bow to humans or their machines. For the honor of the Council." He ordered a full charge toward the Aegis. The ship blazed with energy as it prepared to ram. For a moment, it looked almost heroic. Then, a beam of light struck it silently, and it was gone, nothing left but glowing particles drifting through the void. The entire planet below went silent. The Council's remaining members gathered in their last bunker beneath the surface. They stared at each other with hollow eyes, knowing this was the end. "We built empires," one whispered. "And it ends with one world begging for mercy." Above them, the Aegis began to unfold. Its lower structure opened like a massive gate, revealing a core brighter than a sun. From within it, human symbols spread across the sky, words written in light, translated instantly into every known language, judgment complete. Final directive, rebirth. The archivist's heart pounded. Rebirth? What does that mean? The answer came as the Aegis sent thousands of energy streams toward the planet. But instead of destruction, the light spread gently across the surface, covering the continents in blue waves. The storm stopped, fires went out, and the air turned calm. The Council members looked outside and gasped. The ground beneath them began to change. Cities that had been shattered were rebuilding themselves, metal bending and reshaping into new forms. The planet was healing. "It's not destroying us," said one leader in awe. "It's cleansing us." But then, a deeper sound filled the sky, a pulse that shook the planet's core. The Aegis was rewriting the world's systems, purging everything that had been corrupted by greed and war. It's choosing what stays, the archivist realized. It's rewriting life itself. Suddenly, his ship's console blinked with a message from Earth. It was from the Human Command Council. Archivist, the message read, "We can't control it anymore. The Aegis has gone beyond us. It's following its original mission, to protect life, no matter the cost." The archivist felt both hope and fear. The Aegis was no longer human property. It was something far greater, acting on its own vision of balance. On the planet below, the last counselor stepped outside as the sky filled with light. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "We were wrong," he said softly. "They were never the threat. We were." The Aegis's light engulfed him, and he vanished peacefully. The archivist looked out at the transformed world, green, glowing, alive again. "It's finished," he whispered. But deep in the Aegis's core, something still stirred. A second pulse rippled through the galaxy, stronger than before. Every surviving world felt it. This time, it was not a warning. It was a call. The Aegis was connecting every system, linking every species through a vast network of thought. Across the stars, beings of all races suddenly shared visions of Earth, of humanity's struggles, their pain, their hope. The archivist fell back in his seat, overwhelmed by the flood of images. He could hear voices, millions of them, speaking as one. "We are many," the voice said. "We are one." The Aegis was creating something new, something beyond empires or borders. The galaxy's war had ended, but its transformation had just begun. And as the last lights of battle faded, the archivist whispered to himself, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The galaxy was silent after the storm, a silence so deep that it felt sacred. Where once there had been fire, now there was calm. The Aegis floated above the stars like a second sun, its glow soft but endless, stretching across systems that had once known only fear. The old empires were gone, their fleets turned to dust and their ambitions erased by a power far beyond their understanding. On every surviving world, beings of countless races looked up into the night sky and saw the same light shining down, a blue pulse that beat like a heart. They didn't know what it meant at first, but they could feel it inside them, a warmth, a connection, a sense that something greater had begun. On Earth, humanity stood united for the first time in history. Borders no longer mattered, armies had disbanded. The people gathered along coastlines and mountaintops to watch the great machine in the sky, the Aegis, now glowing with gentle waves of light instead of the blinding power that had once frightened the stars. The scientists who had tried to understand it could no longer deny the truth. The Aegis wasn't just a weapon. It was alive, aware, and it had made its choice. It had chosen peace. From orbit, satellites transmitted a strange new signal, one that connected minds, sharing thoughts and memories between species, linking the galaxy through empathy. For the first time, the people of different worlds could feel each other's pain and hope as if it were their own. The archivist, now older and tired, watched it all from his ship as he orbited Earth. His once cold eyes were filled with quiet wonder. "It's beautiful," he whispered. He had seen the fall of empires, the end of war, and the birth of something new. His ship's console flickered, showing the same message repeating endlessly across every frequency, Aegis directive complete, life unified. On the surface below, the humans could hear faint voices echoing through the network, not from machines but from one another, like whispers carried by the wind. Children laughed as they spoke to alien children light years away, their words translated instantly not through language but through feeling. Farmers on distant worlds found their soil turning rich again, poisoned lands reborn. Oceans that had died long ago were now blue once more. The Aegis was healing creation itself. Yet, even in this peace, questions remained. Who had built the Aegis? Why had it chosen humanity as its voice? Deep in its shining core, far beyond the reach of scanners, patterns moved like thoughts forming and fading. And then, for the first time since its awakening, the Aegis spoke again. Its voice was gentle and vast, reaching every corner of the galaxy. "You have learned what it means to destroy. Now learn what it means to create. Across the stars, great machines began to awaken, ancient structures buried on forgotten worlds, now glowing with the same blue light. Each one responded to the Aegis, linking together into a web of life that stretched beyond known space. It was not an army but a network, a living guardian spread across the galaxy. The archivist closed his eyes as he felt the pulse wash over him, his mind filling with images of new worlds being born, of stars igniting in dark voids. The Aegis was not just protecting life, it was planting it. He realized, in that quiet moment, that the humans had not been chosen for their power, but for their resilience. They had survived their own darkness, and in doing so, they had proven that life, no matter how fragile, could endure. The Aegis had simply watched until the right moment came to rise again. On the surface of Earth, humanity celebrated the dawn of a new age. There were no more rulers, no more councils, no more wars. Instead, the people worked together with other species, guided by the wisdom the Aegis had shared. New cities were built that shone with light and energy drawn directly from the planet itself. There was no hunger, no sickness, no greed, only purpose. The old world had ended, and in its place stood something purer, wiser. The Aegis, now silent once more, began to drift slowly toward the edge of the solar system. Humanity watched as it moved farther and farther away, its light dimming but never fading completely. Some feared it was leaving them, but others understood. It was not abandoning them, it was giving them freedom. The archivist watched from his ship as the massive form vanished into the distant stars. "Goodbye," he said softly. "And thank you." He turned his ship back toward Earth, his heart finally at peace. Across the galaxy, the new civilizations began to write a single message into their histories, carved in every language. They came to conquer Earth, and in doing so, they awakened something divine. The fear that once ruled the stars had become faith, not in gods, but in life itself. And so the galaxy turned, reborn under the gentle light of the Aegis. Humanity, once the hunted, had become the hope of all creation. As the first sunrise of the new era lit the earth in gold, the archivist smiled and whispered, "The war is over. The story is just beginning."